Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Elizabeth Herr. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, the new tensions between the U.S. and Iran.
Nearly 4,000 American troops have now arrived in Kuwait. It comes after the U.S. killed an Iranian commander last week. As he was laid to rest this morning, a stampede was reported and some mourners were killed.
Meanwhile, the leader of Iran's Revolutionary Guard is now vowing to set fire to places supported by the U.S. Number 2, another strong earthquake in Puerto Rico, this one at magnitude 6.5 off the southern coast. There's no immediate reports of any serious damage.
A 5.8 magnitude quake hit yesterday, damaging or destroying dozens of homes in the south. Schools have been closed for a week so buildings can be inspected.
Monday's quake also destroyed the famous Punta Ventana rock formation. These before and after pictures show the landmark reduced to rubble. We will continue to monitor any aftershocks.
On to number 3 in the impeachment showdown in Washington. Key Republican senators have been avoiding questions after former National Security Advisor John Bolton announced he's prepared to testify at the impeachment trial if he's subpoenaed.
But in order for witnesses to be called at the trial in the Senate, Democrats would need the support of 4 Republicans, and that remains unclear. ABC's Mary Bruce says the pressure on moderate Republicans is growing.
Democrats have been demanding to hear from Bolton, and they feel that his offer now strengthens their case for witnesses. But this impasse continues, though Bolton's offer certainly increases the pressure on Republican leader Mitch McConnell to call witnesses. So far, he is refusing to budge, resisting these calls for witnesses, while Democrats say that if he refuses to call key players like Bolton, they say it amounts to a cover-up.
Senator Mitt Romney says he wants to hear what Bolton has to say, but Romney stopped short of supporting a subpoena for Bolton. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is yet to forward the articles of impeachment to the Senate.
Number 4, new trouble for the Boy Scouts. The organization has been hit with its first federal sexual abuse lawsuit.
8 alleged victims say the organization failed to protect them from sexually abusive adults. The suit also claims the Scouts tried to hide the number of pedophiles and put pressure on accusers to stop them from speaking out. The Scouts have not commented on the suit.
And finally, number 5, a new way to reduce stress at work. According to a new study, a small plant on your desk can work wonders.
Japanese researchers tested 6 types of plants, and they say all of them help to significantly reduce stress and lower heart rates. Let's get right to that big story and the new warning from Iran. The leader of the Revolutionary Guard is vowing to set fire to places supported by the United States.
This latest threat prompted a chance of death to Israel as a massive crowd gathered this morning to bury the Iranian general killed by the U.S. At least 35 people have been killed in a stampede at that funeral. Thousands of American troops are arriving in the Middle East as tensions escalate. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is now scrambling to clear up confusion about the status of U.S. forces in Iraq.
Let's bring in ABC's Serena Marshall has the new details from Washington. Serena, good morning.
Kenneth, Elizabeth, good morning to both of you. And the first of nearly 4,000 additional troops have begun arriving in the Middle East, bracing for retaliation from Iran. And this comes as the Pentagon tries to clear up a draft memo that was accidentally released that said they were withdrawing from Iraq.
American soldiers leaving home, landing in the Middle East. 3,500 troops from the 82nd Airborne, 6 B-52 bombers deployed to the region, bracing for retaliation after the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top military commander, General Qasem Soleimani. Millions of mourners turning out for his funeral. ABC's Martha Raddatz in Tehran.
There was weeping on the street, but that was mixed with anger and a real call for revenge.
President Trump continues to defend the killing of Soleimani, telling Rush Limbaugh.
And we had a shot at it, and we took him out. And we're a lot safer now because of it. Now, we'll see what happens.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff also defending the decision to kill the Iranian general, calling the evidence compelling.
Did it exactly say who, what, when, where? No. But he was planning, coordinating, and synchronizing significant combat operations against U.S. military forces in the region, and it was imminent.
General Mark Milley also saying there are no plans to withdraw American troops from Iraq after a draft letter was accidentally circulated that indicated troops were moving out. Milley saying it was never meant to be made public, adding nobody's leaving. But comes as Iraq's parliament took a non-binding vote to kick U.S. troops out of the country. angry the killing of Soleimani occurred on their soil.
The U.S. government and NATO have also now announced a pause to fighting ISIS, saying those U.S. troops need to be used to protect U.S. military bases in Iraq. That means that if the caliphate goes on the offensive, only the Iraqi army is there to fight them. Kenneth, Elizabeth.
All right, Serena, thank you. We appreciate it.
Civil rights groups are looking into reports that dozens of Iranian Americans have been detained while returning to the U.S. from Canada. More than 60 people of Iranian descent say they were stopped and questioned for hours at a border crossing in Washington state as tensions flared with Iran. One woman says she was stopped along with her husband and 2 children when they came back from a ski trip, even though they were all U.S. citizens.
As soon as they realized that we were born in Iran, they lead us to the office and they held us there for 5 hours. They asked many questions, many personal questions like our Facebook account.
It's not clear if Iranian Americans were detained at other border crossings as well. U.S. officials have denied the allegations.
Now to East Africa, where new details are emerging about the terror attack over the weekend that left 3 Americans dead after targeting a key military airfield. Al-Shabaab militants posted images from the base showing their flag next to burning airplanes. The U.S. soldier killed in the attack was identified as 23-year-old Army Specialist Henry Mayfield from Illinois. And Dustin Harrison of Arizona was one of the 2 Defense Department contractors who died.
A 4-year-old is talking about her scary school bus ride.
London Cooks dozed off on her ride to school yesterday morning in Milwaukee. When she woke up, she was all alone inside a locked bus. London started crying and banging on the windows until someone saw her. She is okay this morning. Mom says London definitely acted like a big girl.
I was stuck on the bus. And then nobody came to get me.
Were you scared?
Yeah. I was scared and I was so scared. But I was pretty brave.
You was pretty brave?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you were, baby.
I didn't cry that much.
London's parents had no idea what happened until they got a call saying she wasn't in school. Police are investigating.
Milwaukee police are looking for a driver who shot 2 kids who threw snowballs at his car. The boy and girl, ages 13 and 12, were wounded but are expected to recover. Police only know it was a white Toyota. The kids were part of a group throwing snowballs at passing vehicles and hit that Toyota. One neighbor thinks she heard as many as 5 shots. We turn now to what appears to be a record settlement for a couple in California.
Ikea is set to pay $46 million to a family whose son was killed by a recalled dresser that fell on top of him. It's being described as the largest settlement of its kind in U.S. history. Jolene and Craig Dudek held back tears while talking about their son, who died after a dresser fell on top of him.
He would be turning 5 this year. We never thought that a 2-year-old could cause a short 30-inch dresser to tip over and suffocate him.
The couple spoke via Skype as their lawyer announced a $46 million settlement with Ikea, what they believe is the largest child wrongful death settlement in U.S. history. 2-year-old Joseph Dudek was killed in 2017 when the 70-pound dresser toppled over, crushing the boy in his California home.
When they purchased the 3-drawer mound dresser from Ikea in 2008, they never suspected that this small, short dresser could be an instrument of death.
The lawsuit claimed Ikea knew of the deaths associated with the tip-overs prior to Joseph's death, but failed to take adequate safety measures. In a statement, Ikea says while no settlement can alter the tragic events that brought us here, we're grateful that this litigation has reached a resolution. We remain committed to working proactively and collaboratively to address this very important home safety issue. The dresser was recalled in 2016, a year before Joseph died, but his parents say word about the recall never reached them.
The problem is that there were 27 million dressers sold, and only a fraction of them have been returned to Ikea. So there are clearly millions and millions of unsafe, easily tipped over pieces of furniture in homes across America. And will another tragedy arise? We hope not.
Ikea released a line of tip-over resistant furniture in June. The Dudek family says they'll donate $1 million from the settlement to groups that advocate for more furniture stability testing.
And a dog in Indiana has had its special day after spending more than half of its life in a shelter.
Sandy is a 12-year-old pit bull boxer mix. A shelter north of Indianapolis served as her home for more than 6.5 years.
Incredible. A local couple decided to give Sandy a permanent home. She left wearing a little red crown and with lots of love from the staff.
Sandy.
That's amazing.
Sandy was like the mascot for that shelter, but Sandy says, my work is done. I found my forever home and family.
Love that story.
And now I'm going.
Yes.
Hey, coming up, why people are flocking to a tiny village in Austria. Here's a hint. They just can't let it go.
But first, the new developments in the Harvey Weinstein trial, the new charges on the other side of the country after this. Welcome back. We turn now to the Harvey Weinstein case. The movie producer received a surprise during day one of his sex assault trial in New York City. New charges were filed on the other side of the country in Los Angeles. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Just hours after Harvey Weinstein entered court in New York City for the start of his long-awaited rape trial, the now infamous Hollywood executive hit with new charges on the other side of the country.
The defendant used his power and influence to gain access to his victims and then committed violent crimes against them.
The Los Angeles district attorney now accusing Weinstein of raping one woman in her LA hotel room, then the next night allegedly sexually assaulting another woman in a hotel suite, all just days before appearing here on the 2013 Oscars red carpet with his pregnant wife. More than 80 women have accused Weinstein of sexual misconduct, but the charges he faces in New York stem from two alleged victims. Weinstein has pled not guilty and maintains all sexual relations were consensual.
This trial is to show the jury, the state of New York, and the world that there's more to this than they would like everyone to believe.
Monday, as the trial began, several of Weinstein's other accusers were outside the courthouse, vowing not to be silenced.
I join these other brave women who were also harmed by Harvey Weinstein to say we aren't going anywhere.
Harvey Weinstein's trial here in New York set to continue later this morning. The jury selection process scheduled to start at 9:30, and that process alone could take 2 weeks or more. Kenneth, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Trevor. And now for more on our top story, the escalating tensions with Iran and the threat of retaliation for the airstrike that killed the top Iranian general. Let's go across the pond to our foreign correspondent, Julia McFarland in the London Bureau, for more on the Iranian military's capabilities. Julia, good morning.
Morning, Kenneth. Morning, Elizabeth. So we've heard a lot over the last few days about the risks posed by the Iranians. We've heard a lot about how they have proxies across the region, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and of course Hezbollah in Lebanon. But I just want to talk to you guys today a bit more about how the IRGC itself, it is a considerably vast entity and it poses a very unique hostile threat to the US. I want to start off by saying that the IRGC, guys, it is separate from the Iranian conventional army. They have their own Air Force command. They have their own Navy that is separate from the Iranian Navy, and they have their own cyber command. A bit on their Navy. They have IRGC Navy patrols in the Strait of Hormuz. And remember, in 2016, there were U.S. sailors that were seized by the IRGC in that area. That is something to be concerned of as we've seen tensions escalate in the Gulf. The cyber command, Iranian cyber capabilities are considerable. They have carried out cyber attacks in Israel, in Turkey, and of course on U.S. banks and U.S. businesses. The other thing to understand about the IRGC is that they have a separate command structure that goes all the way up to the supreme leader. They kind of operate beyond the realms of the judiciary. They have a command structure that bypasses the elected president. They are a considerable force.
Julia, the other big story this morning, of course, is the fire still raging in Australia. Experts are saying that these fires are exactly what climate scientists have been predicting for more than a decade. What can you tell us about that?
Right, so there was this report back in 2007, Elizabeth, by the United Nations that warned that the rising global average temperature could contribute to the frequency and intensity of fires around the world. Climate experts have said that this, what we are seeing in Australia, exactly matches the warnings that scientists made in that UN report more than 10 years ago. They say that the increase in the fire danger is likely to be associated with a reduced reduced interval between fires so that they happen more often, and a faster spread of the fire. Now, an energy systems analyst told ABC News that all of these factors, especially the increase in the global temperature, has played a significant role in these fires in Australia, which last year they saw the driest and the warmest year on record. And they've still got 2 months of the dry summer season to go. And that's one of the really devastating things about the fire in Australia, is that it shows no signs of going away anytime soon. Guys, I want to also point you to this very fascinating, curious natural phenomenon that has been observed in Australia. That is the pyrocumulonimbus clouds. Now, ordinary Australians are now becoming more and more adept at recognizing these clouds. What they are is these are clouds that have been formed in the hot smoke plumes of the fires. It can also happen in volcanoes, and that these systems basically generate their own thunderstorms. Now, how that works, just briefly, is when the hot air rises from these fires, it cools and sucks in cooler air around it, and much as how normal clouds are formed when you get moisture condensing in the atmosphere, this can form up clouds. But when you have this mixed with the extreme heat, that causes an electrical charge, and therefore it generates lightning, which can then spark more wildfires. Now, Australians have been seeing these, and they've been taking incredible photos of these clouds, some even from the air. And you can see how they're different from normal clouds because of how thick they are. And many are wondering this is why the skies have been so dark in Australia recently.
Yeah, such a serious story that's happening there. So we want to end on something just a touch lighter. Julia, that village that reportedly inspired the setting the film Frozen is being overrun by tourists. And I know that's still kind of serious as well, but it's a beautiful place.
I was going to say the tourists probably don't think it's a very light matter, but this is an Austrian village called Hallstatt. Now, we can't say that it is the inspiration for Arendelle and Frozen, but it's certainly been speculated that it was. It is a beautiful fairy tale alpine village. It's just a short drive away from Salzburg or Vienna by train. The population is 778 people, but they get up to 10,000 tourists a day. That is 6 times the number of tourists per capita that Venice gets. Now, it got on the map after appearing in a South Korean TV show, and then this Chinese tycoon decided to build a replica of it in Guangdong, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on that replica, and then came along that rumor that it was the inspiration for the village in Frozen. Now, this is a huge, huge problem for the people who live there. They've got unprecedented litter problems. Prices have skyrocketed. They've got a problem with drones. There are drones all over the place. And the mayor is at a loss as to what he can do about it, because, of course, you can't just stop people from showing up.
And, Julie, I know those tourists are also spending money, right? I mean, they're, you know. I was going to say,
how do you balance?
They are giving to the local economy. So it's sometimes like the good with the bad.
Guys, residents are charging tourists €1 to use their bathrooms. That is how crazy this situation is in this village.
I mean, I don't really know what €1 is, but I mean, I feel like that's. I'm just kidding.
It's like it's a little over $1. I think it's like $1.40.
Right. I think they should charge even more. I mean, the residents there should take advantage and get as much out of this as they can, because soon people will let it go and they'll move on. So.
Oh, there we go.
Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Julia. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Let's check our notifications now, starting with this kayaker getting a close encounter with a pod of killer whales. Look at all that.
Wow.
I love these sites, and now everybody has like a GoPro.
I was just going to say, is that probably the video we're looking at? But
GoPro camera on the helmet.
Scared, but that's quite incredible.
They're gentle giants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, next to a joyous celebration going viral this morning is an Ohio teenager. He is walking through a cheering crowd to ring the bell, and that all represents the end of his chemo treatment for acute leukemia. And so we are saying congratulations to you. Stay strong.
Look at him.
Obviously, when people go through this, it is such a big moment for them.
Absolutely. And he looks to have all his friends, family, and just everyone cheering him on. well worth
special moment
that celebration.
there. New York's governor once again became a first responder after a crash on the highway.
Andrew Cuomo rescued a man from a partially overturned truck Monday afternoon on a highway in New York City. Staffers shot this video of the governor helping that driver out of the wreck. The man is okay. And by the way, this is the third time Cuomo has come to a driver's rescue in the past 4 years.
I think we have a new governor. There you go. Coming up, we are counting down the hours to the greatest Jeopardy showdown ever.
Who will end up taking away the title, the greatest of all time? Hear from the champions themselves after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are scheduled to welcome the Prime Minister of Greece and his wife to the White House. The two couples will meet in the Oval Office before the President and Prime Minister hold an expanded bilateral meeting in the Cabinet Room.
Jury selection is scheduled to begin in the trial of film producer Harvey Weinstein, who is accused of sexually assaulting 2 women. Weinstein has pleaded not guilty to 5 criminal charges and could face life in prison if convicted.
And we are just hours away from the epic television event that fans of Jeopardy have been waiting their entire lives for.
3 of Jeopardy's biggest champs are bracing for their biggest face-off ever. Here's ABC's David Muir.
It all comes down to tonight. 3 Jeopardy legends on one stage.
Jeopardy, the greatest of all time.
Vying for that title, the greatest of all time, and $1 million.
How much did you raise? $38,314, a new one-day record.
Jeopardy James Holzhauer.
I'm going to have to really be quick on the signaling device, I know, against these 2.
James in the buzzer, and Ken Jennings knows it's fresher for James.
He's done it more recently, but you know, less than half as long as certain people.
Jennings, famous for his record-breaking 74-game winning streak.
Ken.
What is Iowa?
Yes.
And Brad Rutter, the top money winner, $4.69 million.
Who is Vivian Lee?
Yes, indeed.
Is he nervous?
It's like riding a bike. You know, you get back up there, you never forget.
And there is one category we hope all of you at home will ace. Look what they sent. The category called David Muir Covers the World. I hope I get it right. And right there calling the shots, Alex Trebek, the true champion, and no favorites.
There are elements that favor each of the 3 guys. They didn't win all that money by accident.
Thank you, David. Can't wait for that category. And James, Ken, and Brad appeared at the same table yesterday on GMA as Amy Robach asked Ken and Brad about their strategy for facing off against James.
This is the first time I've ever been on Jeopardy where I knew for months who I was going to watch. So I got very familiar with James by watching every game I could see. You went to see him in person, right?
I did, yeah. And that's one of the benefits of living in L.A.
Oh, I love that. So, I mean, how many hours did you all put in to prepare for this tournament?
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, Jeopardy, you're kind of preparing your whole life for, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, every time you learn something new, you just try to file it away. Might be useful one day.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because a lot of people think you just study for this stuff. You can't do it that way. Like, there is some stuff you can brush up on, but mostly it's just being curious about information and learning your whole life and having it stick somehow.
Makes sense.
Wow, I thought it was all about the studying.
No, but they are preparing for this.
Wow.
They're taking this seriously.
Okay.
So?
Yep, that's our question of the day. Who do you think will be crowned the greatest? I gave you an opportunity to say the question.
I was going to say someone read it.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
So here's our question of the day. Who do you think will be crowned the greatest Jeopardy champion of all time? Tell us who you're rooting for in the comments or tweet us at ABC News Live. We already know who I think.
Who do you think?
Here comes Jeopardy James.
Oh.
Here comes Jeopardy James. He will blow away all those other contestants because here comes Jeopardy James.
And I say Ken. So there you have it.
All right, we're out of time. We got to go.
Have a great day.
We'll see you tomorrow.